Okay, beautiful morning here, and the first talk and beginning of Monday, 21st, a day of 21st day in the month of May, and we're here with the first talk. We're looking at the church and taxation in terms of should the church pay tax? Now, Jesus Christ actually in the book of Matthew chapter 17 verse 24 to 27, when he was with Peter and he was asked to pay a tax, he said something, and we'll be looking at that. I'll read that scripture, but it is not, is it something new that people are now talking about, whether the church must pay tax, or it started way back when looking at Roman Emperor Constantine in AD 272 to 337 AD. He started actually the process, and he realized that it wasn't feasible. He then gave in. So we are talking about way back. Now the discussion has been on whether the church must pay tax, and other people feel that the church is earning so much. Some people are saying selling oil. Some of them call it oil. Some are selling oil. Some are selling all sort of things, and people feel that the things they are selling must be taxed. Is it the church as a whole that need to be taxed, or is just a component of things the church engages themselves in, that is income generated ventures, that must be taxed? Now, a survey done by New Times in 2009 reveals that, in 2007 reveals that some established churches over the years within that frame fulfill or honor their tax honor their tax obligations. And for instance, the names of those churches that were mentioned in that survey include the Catholic, Anglican, Presbyterian, ICGC, Action Chapel, and Pentecost churches. And the Pentecost church was seen to be, in that particular year, was given won a gold award from the governing board of the IRS, because they topped the payee, that is a pay as you go, pay as you earn, the tax, that tax frame. And so the Church of Pentecost became the head, or became the top of the list. They paid 8% withholding tax on rent, 10% on professional services, 5% on purchases of items and construction charges. And in 2007 they were adjudged to be the top of the list. Now, other people have said that the church must pay tax on other issues. The argument has been on and on and on and on. Does the Constitution of Ghana really indicate, or has any clause or convention that indicate that churches must pay tax? If they are to pay the tax, what are those tasks that they are to pay? What is the task itself that we are talking about? And what are the types of tax we have that the church fall within which ambit? Now, I've been joined by two gentlemen, one who is a tax consultant and a senior tax specialist, MTN Ghana, Francis Timor Boy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have Pastor Stephen Yedu, Padmore President, Family Life Resolution Center. Good morning, Pastor Stephen.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good
Welcome to the first talk on the first show.
Okay.
The church and tax. Should the church pay tax? I'll start with you.
Yeah. Church and taxation. And like you rightly said, it's been a very contentious matter. And taxation goes way back. In fact, in the Bible, we see prominent people who we call disciples of Jesus Christ. They were tax professionals. They were collecting taxes. Matthew was one of such person. Zacchaeus, the famous Zacchaeus, he was also a tax person. So taxation and the church, you are, if you read the Bible, you see some relationship between them. So The difficulty has to do with whether the income that the churches make, should we tax everything, or a section or a portion of it that needs to be taxed. For my view, I think there are two ways to look at it. You know, Ghana is not the only country that collect taxes. A lot of countries collect taxes, and sometimes the state in the collection of taxes tries to use people or agents to collect taxes. And so the church as an entity, in some way or somehow, the church as an entity plays some agency role in collecting taxes for government. For that one, I don't think there's any confusion about it. For example, if a church employs a reverend minister, or the church employs an accountant, the guy is in employment. So in that circumstance, the church will be seen as the employer, and therefore if you are paying the person his salary, just like I'm also paid a salary, my employer withhold a portion of the salary that is being paid to me. The same way the church is also is required to withhold a portion of the salaries that is being paid to that employee in the church.
Okay.
And it includes reverend ministers and everybody, even casual workers. Okay. As long as they are employees.
Okay. I will come back to you for you to give us a breakdown in terms of what the type of taxes we have and what they represent in terms of the taxation system with the regards to the jurisdiction of Ghana. But I want to go to Osofo, Pastor Stephen. Now let me ask you, what makes up the church? What is the church, and what makes up the church? And so twofold questions there. What is the church, and what makes up the church?
All right, thank you. I would want to greet your viewers. What makes up the church? What is church? Church, to define it, is a called out ones, people that have accepted Jesus Christ, and it's individualistic. This is what we have to understand. When we talk of church, in a general sense, we mean an individual. You know, so as I sit here, I'm a church. As you sit here, you are a church. As he's here, he's a church. And everybody that calls himself a human being, you become a church when you accept Christ as your Lord and your personal Savior. But church, in general terms, is a collective body or a group of people who have come together that shares a common belief in terms of religion. You understand? So if I have to define church, that's how I will define church. Coming to what they represent, church see to the spiritual aspect of the people in the state or human beings, and also go to the extent of looking at the social interventions and all that. So church in its regard, or in its sense, is a social entity that seeks to the spiritual and that of the social intervention of individuals. Yeah.
Okay, should the church pay taxes? And here you can join the conversation at 0501318143 on WhatsApp. You can also join our social handles like us on Facebook at GNTVGH, like us on Twitter at GNTVGH as well, and on IG at GNTVGH. Subscribe to our page on YouTube at GNTVGH, and you can tweet and on our Twitter page and retweet every conversation that's going on. So here we continue. Pastor is saying that an individual is a church, a collective body of believers that have one common spiritual agenda in believing in Jesus Christ is a church. That is the organization. Now I want to come to Pastor again. If that is the case, seeking and seeing to the spiritual needs of individuals, must the church engage in any trading activity?
All right, thank you. Any trading activity, if I'm to understand from where you're coming from, trading in church, for me, I don't think that's the idea. But it depends on how you look at. I know many people are now tagging church as an entity that are making merchandise in church premises and all that, due to the fundraising that's going on and all that. But on quote unquote, church is not a business entity. Church is a religious entity. And looking at it, you and I will understand that when it comes to religious issues, in as much as it is religious, we also need money in sponsoring some of our activities, because we have pardon my language, people that are in deviant lives, you know, and we want to bring them into Christ so that their lives will be better off. And to do that, it has to do with money. I'm talking about going to inns and all that to propagate the gospel, traveling here and there, doing crusades and all that, to make sure that people will be, you know, one for Christ, so that their lives will be better off. In doing that, it has to do with money, and we don't have any donor anywhere to support the church. And so the people that have come together as a body contribute something.
But Jesus said, I'll build my church and the gate of hell will not prevail against it. So if you don't have a donor, where is Jesus saying that I'll build my church and the gate of hell will not prevail against it?
Yes, I will build my church. Building the church, I told you, first of all, church is an individual. So building a church is to let an individual understand himself. You understand? That's one point of call. Then also, by what you are saying, if Jesus says I'll build my church, building my church does not mean that we should look into the heavens and see money dropping from heavens. You understand? He has given us what it takes to help ourselves. So I will go somewhere, like in the days of Ananias and Sapphira, you know, Peter and co. People will go sell their, you know, properties, bring to the church premises, so that the church, the things of God will go on. These days, if I tell somebody to go and sell his house and come and bring it to me, it will become a news. And so we as individuals, in our own small ways, contribute, you understand, into the church's coffers, so that the work of God will go on.
Okay, so that the work of God will go on. Pastor Stephen has still not answered my question whether the church must trade involved in any trading activity.
I am coming there.
Okay,
I am coming there. I'm coming there shortly.
Okay,
whether the church must trade, that's what I'm saying, that it depends on where you're coming from. If a church, you know, supposedly, I know some of the church on Kotongo, they sell items, you know. Let's go back to the old churches like Methodist, Presby and all that. During their annual, you know, harvest and all that, some of them will bring water, as is here. Some will bring cassava, especially when you go to villages and all that. And you know that this water is more or less like about 2 cedis or something. And if it is sent there, the water could be sold, you know, as you can understand, like 100 cedis or 200 cedis and all that. If that is what you are talking about, the trade, then I can understand, or I will expatiate on that. That's why I say it depends on where you're coming from. So if you say must the church trade, I want to know where you want to.
Trading is trading.
Yes.
I will come back. I want to go for a quick break. When I come back, I'll ask Pastor Stephen that Jesus entered the temple and he was whipping people and disciplining people. Wonderful. Because trading was going on in the church. What exactly is the trading at that time that Jesus was whipping people out of the church, and today harvest and all that? What is the disparity? Let's go for this quick break. When I come back, the show continues.
I'm Hetty Mesa-Ricketts, CEO of Spa Body and Beyond. Spa Body and Beyond is known for its therapeutic services. Our Wellness Institute offers various kinds of programs such as massages, skincare, body grooming, nail grooming, customer service, and more. We have morning programs, evening and weekends. Our courses are short and intensive.
What are the effects of massage? What are the effects of massage or the benefit of massage? If you know, yes.
Release stress.
Release what stress?
Should you be interested in changing a career, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll be more than glad to assist you. Our programs are open to age group 17 and above. They are also certified by NVTI. Spa Body and Beyond Wellness Institute is located at East Legon. Spa Body and Beyond has a shop where we sell products on retail and wholesale basis for salon and spa owners as well as individuals. We carry various range of products such as massage oils, lotions, body scrub, manicure and pedicure products as well as hair products. We also offer spa services such as massages, manicure, pedicure, skin care, facials, body treatments. We have both corporate accounts and individual accounts, and we welcome them as well. Spa Body and Beyond can be located at Osu, Oxford Street. We are between the Shell Filling Station and Photo Club. We are open Monday through Saturday. Don't hesitate to contact us. You can also get more details about us by visiting our website www.spabodyandbeyond.com. Spa Body and Beyond, the touch of relief.
Okay, so welcome back from the break, and I have here with me Mr. Francis Timor Boy, a tax consultant, and Pastor Stephen Yedu, President, Family Life Resolution Center. Now, the discussion began. We got to a point now whether the church must involve itself in any trading activity. We have in our churches people are selling all sort of things in the name of Christ, in the name of God, and they're selling all sort of things and making money, and some feel they're enriching themselves and riding in good big cars and things like that. Others feel that some pastors are using the church's money to enrich themselves. Others are using church's money to enrich themselves. And so I come to you now, Mr. Timor, tell me, take us through the tax process in terms of what you to do, who is to be taxed, what is to be tax to be placed on, and give us the types of tax we have.
Okay, so in Ghana, our main tax law is the Income Tax Act.
Okay.
Act 896, which was passed in 2015. If we try to trace taxation in Ghana, we can go back as far as 1943.
Okay.
And so our tax system have been evolving. One major change was in 2000, the year 2000, when we brought the Act 592, and that dealt mostly with income tax. For 2015, the law that we are using now seems to categorize income into three main sources.
Okay.
So if you are getting income from business, the law says you should pay tax on it. If you get income from employment, you are supposed to pay tax on it. And if you also make income from investment, maybe you don't want to do business or you don't want to get employed, and all you do is to invest, you get income from investment, and then you're supposed to pay tax on it. So that mostly deals with the direct taxes. Most of us also pay taxes in the form of VAT, and there's another tax called communication service tax, the one and the mobile phone tax, where you talk and then you pay tax. Those are more often direct taxes. The more you consume, the more you pay the taxes. We also have some taxes that we pay when we import, when we bring in goods. Those are mostly related to customs duties and other levies that are paid at the ports. So generally, that is the various taxes that we are likely to pay. Either it's going to be direct tax, which you can see in the form of VAT, customs, and other CST. Those are more indirect taxes. Okay. But the direct taxes, you earn income as an employee, then you pay tax on it, or you from business, then you pay tax on it.
Okay, so now you indicated the basic one: business, you pay tax on business, you pay on employment, and then on investment. Yeah. So if I am in the church and I have my business, okay, as an individual I have a business, I'm paying tax on my business. I am employed, I am paying tax on employment. I have done investment, I am paying tax on investment. Now the church as a body involves itself in business. One, it will be taxed for that.
That is it.
Okay, now if employs people in that business or in the church, he must pay tax on the employed.
But to clarify that point, the employee is the one earning the income. The church's duty is to act like an agent. Instead of giving the entire money to the employee to go to the tax office to go and pay by himself, the law says that no, I am appointing you as an agent. Before you pay the net amount, before you pay the money to the person's bank account, deduct so much, come and pay for me.
Okay. So
it's like you are paying on behalf of the employee.
Okay.
And that is not your income. It's not the church's income.
Okay. So now the church's pays if the church has this business, it pays tax on its business, yes, and pay tax on the employers, the employees it has in the company on that business. Yeah. Then if the church involve itself in any investment, be also pay tax on this. So in this case, if these three thematic areas, taxation is placed on these areas, where would the law be able to say that the church in its totality or as a body need to pay tax?
Okay, so taxation is by statute. In fact, the Constitution says in Article 174 that you can't collect taxes unless it is imposed by Parliament under an act or by an authority. That one is clear. And then under Article 41(2) says that if we want to enjoy our freedom and all our rights, we can't separate it from taxes. In fact, it is our duty to declare our taxes honestly and pay to the state. It's an obligation for every citizen. So in Ghana, we have the law that imposes the tax. And if you permit me to read section 97 of the current law that we have, under section 97(4), it says that the income accruing to or derived by a charitable organization is exempt.
Okay.
Now churches are seen as charitable organizations because traditionally we expect them to not to do things that will bring profits into the business, into the church.
Okay.
Traditionally, that is how churches are seen.
Okay.
Non-profit organizations.
Okay.
But it goes on to say under section 97 subsection 5 says subsection 4 does not apply to business income.
Okay.
So we are saying that the church should not pay tax on its income. However, if the church has a business income, that exemption doesn't apply.
Okay.
So then we go back to what the question you posed. What is business income to the church? We have seen so many churches. I know at least Ghana Presby has a microfinance. They have set up a company. It is owned by the church. So assuming the church sets up a company, I also set up my own. Are we going to say that the church is doing business and because it's a church, it shouldn't pay tax, then I will pay tax? I mean that would be unfair. And that one major principle of taxation is equity and fairness. So whilst the two of us are having company, and mind you, the church is an entity, it's a separate registered organization. It has its own assets, it has its own liabilities. And I know that the well-established churches, the assets of the church doesn't belong to the pastor or whoever founded it. That is what I want to believe. Unless
that is what is supposed to be.
Exactly. Yes. Unless some other churches we may find, and everything is controlled by
so here lies the case. We have this a church, one-man church. There is nothing that goes proper structure in terms of administrative process and things like that, and the proper way of making sure that the property of the church does not belong to the pastor. It is for the church, because it is not an individual establishment. It is not, the church is not yours. The church is not mine. It's for Jesus, because he said, I will build my church. So where the case come in, and the pastor now holding the property of the church and doing business in the church, you have indicated business. There are some, you see that this is actually business that is going on in the church. And I'll go to Osofo today. I'm with him. I'll go to Osofo and ask him, because when Jesus entered the church and saw the people selling and doing all sorts of things in the church, Jesus became angry and started whipping them. So here we are seeing churches today in Ghana selling, practically you can see business going on in the church. It is not an established limited liability company or something that has been established, but this one, in the name of the church, things are trading is going on. I can see Pastor Stephen laughing. Also, tell me, when Jesus entered the church, he saw these things going on. He started caning people. Now tell me, if you are saying that you believe the church must be tax exempt, tell me, if you now what is going on where people are selling in the church, you can see practically, you have seen some. Can you tell me you've not seen some?
Not really. Yes, it's going on, but with regards,
so have you seen some
selling?
Have
like
you seen
anointing oil?
Yeah,
oh,
have you seen going on?
I've seen.
And you see that there are some of them. It's not actually. It's actually business.
You see, that's why I'm saying that we have to define this very well. Somebody who is more or less, let me put it this way, it might sound odd, but we must understand that people are in the system calling themselves pastors and prophets who are purely ignorant about the exact thing that they are doing. Purely ignorant. You understand? When I say purely ignorant, it's like they don't even understand the scriptures for which they are using. You see, and that's where we find ourselves in this. Coming to the question you asked regarding Jesus entering into the church premise and beginning to whip the people and all that, time will not permit me to use diagrams and all that to explain that thing, but I think with little time I will do so. That thing there, you see, it was the temple that was built by Solomon. Yes. That temple had demarcations. A section of it was designated for the Jews, and a section, which is even the biggest section, was designated for the Gentiles. And where the Gentiles' own has been designated, that's where the business you're talking about was going on, not the temple where the Jews were worshiping.
Okay.
And that business that was going on was just a normal business, like when you go to Makola, what happens in Makola. So the idea is that people normally explain that scripture by saying that people were selling in the church and Jesus went there and whipped them. The idea was that God gave that idea to Solomon to build that temple and designate that big portion for the Gentiles, because God had an agenda of bringing the Gentiles to himself. So instead of the Jews going out there and making proper use of that place that had been designated for the Gentiles by way of bringing them so that they will also have a taste of God that they were worshiping, they then change that place or use that place instead of bringing them by trading. So it's a way of telling God or telling Jesus that the importance of this place is not our duty. We don't care. You understand that? And that was the beef of Christ. That's what people don't understand. And what I'm saying, I'm telling you, most pastors don't even understand that portion of the scripture. So Jesus's beef was not necessarily the business, but the purpose of that place has been abused. The purpose has been abused. The purpose was that bring the Gentiles to this place. Of course, you know those days, Peter and Co will tell you, when you see a Gentile, it's like we have seen a taboo. This is our God. It's not your God. So obviously, when they are coming amidst them in one particular place in worshiping, there will be some sort of, this racism. It started long ago. So Jesus, in his own wisdom, or God in his own wisdom, said the temple must have a portion for these Gentiles. And instead of you going out there to propagate the gospel, to bring the Gentiles to come and fill this place and to have a taste of my word, you are changing the place.
So I'll come back to you. I have a lawyer, Maurice Ampao, on the line, who is a legal practitioner. Hello, good morning, lawyer Maurice.
Good morning.
How are you, sir? Okay. This morning we are looking at, should the church pay taxes? Where you stand and what you've seen going on from the legal perspective, is it feasible?
From a legal perspective, I think that it's quite certain that the churches are not a public making institution with a guarantee continuity. And if you look at the law that established it, they are not public making. They are aiming to promote
Hello, lawyer Ampao.
Yes.
Please just position yourself your line is not stable, so we can hardly hear you well. It's better now. It's better now.
When the law that establishes the churches, they are not profit-making organization, and as a guarantee company, they are not supposed to make profit or have from any form of income. Whatever income or profit that they make from the activities to be brought back to further enhance the mission of the institution. But the moment engaged in profit making activity, that activity is taxable. So, for example, a church that has decided to run a transport business, if you run a transport business, you are making money, and if you don't put back that money into the church activities, then that money is taxable. That's what they want to do.
Okay, lawyer Ampao, I hope you've seen some churches, not established businesses. You have seen that they are selling, practically making profit on the things they are selling in the church, within the church setting. As a lawyer, and you have seen that this particular activity is going on, and it is clearly indicated that the church is not to make profit. Their businesses they've established, yes, it's been taxed, but there are some of the things that they have not actually registered it as a form of business, but within the church they are making sales and making profit. What do you make of this one?
You see, that is where we are saying that our institutions are feeling that, because the government authorities' duty is to question the structure of every income. It is not in this country where people make money and we don't know they get money. So if you have a good system, you'll be all the activities, right from fundraising, any source of income of the church. Those who are into business, those who are raising funds, those who are engaging in public activities, you begin to find out how much they are making and how much is being called back into the activities of the church. Because they can make profit. But if you use the money to, for example, evangelize or use the money to further activities that promote the object of the church, then those monies are not acceptable. But we have a weak institution, weak monetary system, so the men of God are into the activities of the church. And they are building mansions that financing their extravagant lifestyle.
Okay. Okay.
It's not together that people are making money and we look at their source.
Okay.
It cannot happen in Britain. It cannot happen in America. Because in America,
Lawyer Pa,
yes.
Please just reposition a bit. The line keeps cutting off. Not too stable. I want to follow up with this. You were citing an example with America. Clearly, I have seen and studied that particular process in terms of administration, with regards to the church administration. Within that jurisdiction, pastors, because there is a law to actually monitor the expenditure of the church, pastors are put on their toes to know how they use the church's money. As a lawyer and a legal practitioner, would you propose something for amendment of this law with regards to the church in terms of taxation?
No. It's any amendment. We don't any review. There is substance to the monitoring. Because, for example, the revenue authority will have a direct monitoring law. All church finances, income and expenditure is being monitored. So at church, we have the revenue authority assigned to every church. They go through their book. They even attend churches. Every person that is raised is accountable. Right from fundraising in the church, outside the church, commercial activities involved in the church. These things are effectively monitored. Then they will set up the churches, spend those money into which activities. So they will not look for something that's taxable and not something that's not taxable.
Okay.
They are ready to do.
Okay.
We don't need the amendment.
Okay.
It's not clear.
Okay.
It's not the part of the institution. We do the monitoring.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Lawyer Ampa, Maurice Ampa, thank you so much for your time this morning on the first show, on the first talk. Lawyer Apple, thank you very much. We thank you for your time. Now, I want to come to you. You had a lawyer, and he was saying that we don't need any amendment to this law, but then our systems must be actually be put in place well, so that Ghana Revenue Authority will be assigned to churches so that they monitor the funds that come in and what is being used for. You agree with him?
Yeah, I do. Because church as an entity, before you start a church, you go to Ghana Registrar General or Registrar General to register the church, and I think it comes with, since it's a state whatever that will be given to you to fill and all that, it has to tell you that there's a bylaws and all that you have to follow. And so I buy with what he's saying. By and large, it's like the institution. So the institution that need to check those things have failed to do that, and that's what is happening in our country, not even in churches alone. But one thing we have to understand is that in church for which I pastor some, people might stand back and think that church is making money. Yes, we are talking about majority, but churches are much more accountable, and I'll be tempted to say that every church is accountable except with few, and those are the ones that I bear with Lawyer Ampa, because if these checks are going on, I think the few that are not accountable will also be accountable. But I know that churches have instituted leadership, and all of us are in church. Some of us assume leadership positions and all that. And trust you me, some of the churches and of the majority, the pastor, the only thing that he can do is to they will count the money, bring the whatever to him, this is how much we had and all that, and the pastor will sign and the money will go back to the bank. Then a yearly budget will be drawn for that money to be used and all that. So people look at the kind of cars that pastors are driving, the kind of houses that pastors are driving and all that, and judge that possibly, on quote unquote, Pastors are using the church's money. But I want to sound it here to our viewers that I can say that almost about 90-something% of pastors' wealth today, in terms of houses, in terms of cars, and whatever you think they are, for which we are saying that they are amassing wealth from the church and all that, are not from the church's coffers.
How?
Yes. How, in the sense that some of the leaders, or in some churches, trust you me, the church is not for the pastor. The church is mostly seen to be the owners of the members, and now the education has gone to the extent that the members have assumed full ownership of the church. And if you are a pastor and you want the work of God that you have been called into to go on well, you have to accept that.
You have to accept that. Now
Yes.
let me come to you, Mr. Boy. You heard a lawyer saying that our system is actually the problem. We don't need any amendment or whatsoever. This system issue has been coming up in all discussions here and there. You being a taxation consultant, what do you see with regards to the system, as the lawyer mentioned?
Yeah, I think I agree with him, because but we've done, I mean, GRA has done a lot, because under the old law we didn't have some clear provisions as we have now.
Okay.
For example, under the new law we have, under section 97, and if you permit me to summarize, saying the Commissioner General may approve an entity as a charitable organization for purposes of tax.
Okay.
So the last time I was talking to one deputy commissioner, and it's like we're going to see a time where, to be able to be recognized as even a church or a charitable organization, you need to be approved. So as long as the Commissioner General has not approved you as a church or as a charitable organization, they're going to tax you.
What are the things they are going to consider?
Good. So, for example, they're saying that before the approval, the Commissioner General must ensure that it has a constitution which prevents the church from engaging in political activities, supporting political parties, using its platform to engage in party politics. It functions other than specifically as a church. And then it does not confer private benefits. The money does not confer private benefits, but for purposes of promoting the activities of what? The church.
Okay.
So if a pastor is getting some money from the church, then we will see that pastor as either an employee or something else. If a pastor received a donation from the church, we see him as an entity different from the church, and we're going to attack that pastor and tax him. The only thing that is not happening yet, and I agree with the lawyer Ampao, is that we're waiting for the Commissioner General to start enforcing his powers. So he will come out with a list and say that these are the church, these are the organizations I consider as charitable organizations, therefore they qualify for exemption. And even that exemption, he's going to look, and I'm sure before you even go to him to seek approval, you have to go with all your financials and other things. So he will look through to see those ones which are proper church money, other than business money that you have engaged in. For example, people set up schools and charge fees and they make profit. Some people have, registered entities, companies. Those are clearly not church activities, though we have the intention of raising money for
Okay. I want to go for a break, but when we come back, Jesus, when he got to Capernaum, I want to ask Pastor Stephen whether Jesus really believed in taxation.
Center Lab, where professionalism comes to life. We train you to become an event planner and decorator, wedding planner, and an interior decorator. Courses here include floral arrangement, balloon decor, wreath and hamper making, wedding planning, table setting for events, and many more. We also help plan your wedding, funeral, engagement, parties, and any other event. Course duration is from 1 month with an end